Hi, this is HARTS from Melbourne, Australia, and we're listening to Recess with Spinelli.
You are listening to Recess with Spinelli, WSPN 91.1 FM, Skidmore College Radio. And today we are here with Darren Hart of HARTS from Melbourne, Australia. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
I could swear most of the Australian acts I meet are from Melbourne. Is this a very musical city in Australia?
It is a very musical city. It has been for a long time. Not just music, but arts in general as well. It's a very diverse arts kind of base as well. So there is a lot of Melbourne bands, a lot of diversity in the music from Melbourne too. So yeah.
So what about the city though lends itself to being musically inclined?
I'm not quite sure. I think that's the way it's been for a long time. I think it has always been the artsy city in Australia, and I think. Predominantly it's been kind of a rock-based city for a long time, but now it's kind of, really opened up to all sorts of genres and things like that now. And Sydney as well. They're both kind of, really diverse in the music that they produce. Now,
is touring in Australia an easy thing? Or is it kind of hard to get from one side to the next?
It's not that hard because if you're doing major cities, it's not that hard. It's a quick flight. But if you were driving, there's a long way to travel between cities driving. A lot of the regional areas too. There's a lot of music fans in a lot of regional areas and things like that you can get to via driving. It is very spread out though. It's not like the US where there's so much different places to play, so much states kind of together. It is very more spread out, but as a two-piece band that I'm in, it's a lot easier to fly places and things like that. So I don't see it as that difficult to tour Australia. No.
How would you compare the differences or similarities between an Australian crowd and US crowd so far?
Australian crowds, sometimes in Melbourne particularly, the Australian crowds can be a little bit distant, as in they can they still love the show and stuff, but they don't participate as much as some of the other places around the world that I've played. But that's kind of changing now that more of my songs are on radio in Australia and things like that as well. A lot more people know the song, so that's bringing the participation up at my shows as well. I really haven't done too many shows in the US so far, so I can't really gauge that right now. But a lot of people really seem to dig the guitar work over here that I put into my music, which is cool.
Actually, speaking of radio play, has radio helped your band, and do you think it will continue to help bands, if at all, or do you think it's a dying medium?
It's a hard question because it really has helped my band, but at the same point, the biggest way people found me was through word of mouth. That was the biggest way it spread, more so than radio. But radio gave it the opportunity to people to hear my sound for the first time, whether it's them driving in their car or just sitting in a cafe and maybe a radio station's on and they're like, oh, what's this kind of thing, and they Shazam it. So just being, I guess, out and about, I think radio still can survive. Things like that. I don't necessarily think a lot of people sit and tune into their radios anymore. It's part of their busy workday and it's part of their their routine here and there, whatever they're doing, commuting to work and things like that. It's still a big music discovery platform in Australia, I think. So yeah.
So what do you think will be the choice platform for music discovery in the future?
I don't know. I really don't know. I would have thought. Yeah, well, I just kind of go on recommendations from friends because a lot of my musical thing comes from word of mouth, and I think that's how my music is spreading too to my fans. Well, at least when I ask them at shows or ask them on the internet or whatever how they're discovering me, it is a lot, oh, my friend played me this or my friend did this. So it's kind of spreading a lot word of mouth. A lot of my friends discover things on YouTube all the time, whatever streaming service they're with, that kind of, they discover that way. But in terms of me, it's just really word of mouth, so I don't really know. Yeah.
Actually, how long has this duo been together so far?
As a duo, just under a year. I think we came together in January or so, but I've been working under the name HARTS for a long time, probably about 6 years now in Australia. Just building slowly and getting more opportunities here and there, and now it's kind of really taken off. Like, as I said, radio play has really helped my music being discovered, gotten on some of the biggest festivals in Australia at the moment. And it is a solo project for me. I play all the instruments myself in the studio. I do all the writing, all the composing, all the production and recording as well. So it is a one-man band kind of thing, but live I'm kind of really adapting that and trying to figure out ways of bringing that to stage and make it more exciting with, added different members and things like that. So yeah.
So when you're working in the studio versus playing live on stage, how do you try to integrate either studio work or live work into either or? How do they influence each other? Yeah,
well, for a long time I was working just as a studio artist, and I wasn't really thinking about how I'm going to pull this off live, because that was the more interesting part to me, to be working just in the studio and recording and mixing and things like that. I never thought about it until I actually started getting big opportunities to play live, and I was like, well, how the hell am I going to pull all this together by myself? Well, I might need to bring some members together, put a band together, but just honestly, to be honest, it was really expensive to do that, and I couldn't finance, a big tour with an extra 4 or 5 guys kind of thing. It was just very expensive to do that, so I kind of developed a way to be able to play those songs myself as a solo artist, and I looked into a lot of loop artists. I looked into a lot of technology, sequences, MIDI triggering, backing tracks, all those kind of options to help figure out how I'm going to pull this off live. And I kind of arrived at a hybrid between, I guess, being a loop artist and using a lot of stuff on sequencing and triggering samples off a sequencer, and also adding a live drummer to that, because it's just way more impact when you have a live drummer as opposed to a backing track or something playing drums. So I kind of settled on that for a while, and the shows have been really positive, and the shows are there's a lot of people really loving, the hybrid between the digital and the old school kind of blues that I bring to the table as well.
Now, as far as work that people can listen to, have you released anything recently, or will you be releasing anything in the near future?
Yeah, so last year, 2014, I put out my first album called Daydreamer. This year I put out my second EP called Breakthrough in June, and that was the work that has really kind of been building for me. It's getting radio play all over the world and things like that, and a lot of people are really discovering my music through that EP. That came out in June this year. Right now I'm working on the second album back home, and just been writing and recording that, and hoping to drop some new music from that in the States pretty soon.
What are you trying to do differently on this album than your last one?
I'm focusing more on my guitar playing as the point of difference, in terms of there's not a whole lot of bands out there, particularly in Australia, that utilize that type of guitar playing, the old school blues kind of playing, or the funk playing that I have into the genre that I'm making. So I think that's a point of difference, and it's unique to me, and I think I really got to focus on that and hone that, and trying to develop a unique kind of sound. So that was one thing I wanted to do with the EP that I just released, and it worked really well, and I want to continue on that direction in that I guess funk rock hybrid of a sound for the album.
Actually, what about that funk blues rock hybrid? What attracted you to it in the first place?
I'm interested in a lot of genres. I love a lot of different styles of music. Ever since I've kind of first got into music, I've been loving all sorts of things, but something about funk music and the dancing aspect to funk music, and just the rhythm section and stuff like that, it just really, that was my style of music. It felt like you're that type of artist to me. So the funk has always been with me, and it's always been part of what I do. The blues rock kind of thing was just another aspect of music that I liked. I really liked playing guitar, like Jimi Hendrix and Buddy Guy and all my influences. So I really wanted to meld them together and find a hybrid between both those two sounds, while still keeping what I loved about the electronic music scene, stuff like that. I really love electro bands like Gorillaz. I love that. They're one of my favorite kind of electronic hip-hop acts. I wanted to add elements of that to it as well, elements of psychedelics, like a lot of the 60s stuff, the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, and I guess Tame Impala to that mix too. And it's something that actually Prince, the artist, really helped me with. Last year I got the chance to play with him for a while, and he really taught me about honing a specific sound and being a unique artist that way. So that really helped guide me.
And is there anything else that you would like to add for our listeners regarding yourself, the band, thoughts on life, or just anything else that comes to your mind in general?
No, I think you covered pretty much everything. I just want to, reach out and say if anyone really digs my music, get in touch on my social media and let me know and things like that, because I'm always active. I'm always willing to listen to people and see what they think about my music and because those type of fans are the ones that help you grow, and as I said earlier, they're the ones that spread my music word of mouth. So if you dig what you hear of my stuff, and remember the name HARTS, Hearts, get in touch on social media or something and say hi, and we'll try and connect.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
You have been listening to Recess with Spinelli, WSPN 91.1 FM, Skidmore College Radio, and we have been speaking with Melbourne artist HARTS.